We are in Tzidkas Hatzadik Nun Zayin. And last week, I presented to you my list of, we didn't learn it inside, but somehow I found the whole Tzidkas Hatzadik very mechudash. I found there was a tremendous amount of chidushim here. By chidushim, I don't mean chidushim of Reb Tzadok, but chidushim I mean things that I didn't know before that I knew after I learned this. And I made a list of 10 of them, and I promise I'm not going to go over it again. But it's best to understand. What, you want me to? Oh. So I won't and I will. I want to go through Nun Zayin, and as we get to these chidushim to me, I want to speak them out. Nun Zayin. Agmas nefesh. Person has agmas nefesh. Such a word, difficult word I find to translate. It's not tsar. It's a type of tsar. It's a specific type of tsar called agmas nefesh. It comes from a pasuk in Eov, naturally. So, how would you translate agmas nefesh? Carefully. Huh? Yeah, why? What's the root of the word? Aggravation is like the go-to word, but what's the root of the word agmas nefesh? Agam. What is agam? Huh? Can't hear you. Okay.
When you're anchored, when you're being pulled down by something that is
Agam is positive, no? Oh, gain. He's saying og. Ein gimel. That's like an aguna. Again, I don't know if it's the same word or not. But let's see if we could develop from this the definition of agmas nefesh as he's using it. It's not such a common word. It's a common in our vocabulary because we get a lot of it. It's not so common in Chazal.
That's what you said, aggravate.
I know. So agmas nefesh yesh la'adam. There's a certain agmas nefesh that a person has al averoi she'asa, on the averis that you do. And haim, that agmas nefesh, haim mamish yisuri gehenim aloisa avera. Now, we're not just using a vernacular here as well. Like really gehenim to go through that. No. Haim mamish yisuri gehenim. If you want to understand what gehenim is, which very few people have an understanding of what Gehenna means, including me. And I don't really want to know. But if you want to understand what Gehenna is, you have to understand what Agmas Nefesh Hanachet is. If you want to understand, it's the same thing. Not only is it the same thing, it's not like, you see what I'm saying? It's not like, oh, if I didn't have air and I feel embarrassed by it, I'm going through hell right now. That's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is that Agmas Nefesh Ala Avera is Gehenna. But instead of getting Gehenna in the next world, after you die, you get Gehenna here. Mashma, this was one of the chidushim. First chidush, of course, is that you don't, Yisurim, this might be obvious to you, but it needs a makar. Yisurim, any kind of suffering that a person goes through, is not only when you're suffering befoel, like somebody's torturing me, or I have a headache, or that's Yisurim, or even I lose my money, that's Yisurim. But Yisurim of Agmas Nefesh, it's completely something we would go to a therapist for. I have like a lot of Agmas Nefesh, take me out of pain. So that pain is, I don't know if that's negative, but we got to be careful here with what we're doing, but it's not necessarily negative, but it is Gehenna. If the Agmas Nefesh is an Avera that we did.
But it's not that's the direct, it's like your acid rain coming down because of the Averas we've been doing, so to speak.
Like an Onesh?
Yeah.
No, I think, I mean, that sounds right, but I think he's saying something different. That if a person does an Avera, and and really gets, it's not really aggravated, it's really, let's call it embarrassed for it to get it a step further, but I'm really uncomfortable with the Avera that I did. So that's called, that's a form of Gehenna that you get to have in this world, so you don't have to have it in the next world. Mashma that the whole, no, mashma is not machaper. Of course it's machaper, but that's not the point. The point is that Gehenna itself is only to have, that I should have charata on my Averas. I want to I'll tell you a Maharal, and this will help. Maharal's in the Sivas Olam, tshuva. First of all, let's say this, that the first step of tshuva is charata, right? Vidui, charata, kabbalah al-hasid. Vidui is bepeh, but in terms of the psychological process, so charata al-avar, I have charata al-avar. What does that mean? What does it mean? Let's be a mature audience here. That I did not Avera. I was Machal Shabbos Chas v'Shalom. So now I have Charata. So Maral says that's the Busha we're talking about. That's the Agmas Nefesh that we're talking about. We're not just I should have done that Avera. The Rambam says, I'm just moving around a little bit to make the point. The Rambam says in Hilchos Tshuva that if a person becomes about Tshuva, and remember that about Tshuva doesn't mean what we call today about Tshuva. About Tshuva means a person did an Avera, Tzaddik, did an Avera, and now wants to do Tshuva on that Avera. It was Nichshal on an Avera. Not the social phenomenon of about Tshuva. It might be included, but that's not what the Rambam's talking about in that whole Hilchos Tshuva. He's talking about a person did an Avera, he was Nichshal on Avera, now he wants to do Tshuva. So the first feeling that he has to have is a feeling of Charata. The Rambam later says, a parak later, he says that if you did an Avera and you did Tshuva, and it's fine, don't talk about it all over the place. Like you hear people talk, like I like what I used to do. I used to really love like that. Like pepperoni pizza. I just loved it. So people talk about it as a form of Mesiras Nefesh, I guess, that they went through. But the Rambam points out that if you do that, that means you don't have busha. Like very few people walk around and say, like, wow, that was so good when I killed that guy. Like I shot him dead. I did tshuva. I'm not going to shoot anybody anymore. But there's an inherent busha, rape. There's an inherent busha which is involved. So if a person just goes through, becomes about tshuva, kol hakavod, and creates a lifestyle change. So that's, if you're still talking about it 5 years later, 10 years later, giving shiurim on it, boasting about it. So the Rambam tells us, this is not tshuva. It's good. You made a lifestyle change, but it's not tshuva. So when we talk about charota ala avar, what we're talking about is you went through, the Maral says this, you went through a certain type of agmas nefesh and busha over the Avera that says the Maral, what does that do? What does that busha do? What does that agmas nefesh do? We'll see it inside. What that accomplishes, I find this to be very, not just deep, but a whole, it's an avoda here. What this does is, Lashon of the Maral, typical Lashon of the Maral, it's minatek es ha'adam min hachet she'asa. It's like Mamash in the Rambam, right? I'm so detached from that Avera, I so can't relate to that Avera any longer. I feel like I was a different person. So it says the Maral, his lashon is Lama habusha mechaper ala havainos. It's not in here; it's in the Maral. Lama habusha mechaper ala averos. The answer is that the busha separates the person from the aver you did. This busha can be called busha. The Maral says in the Zivat Tshuva. It could be called agmas nefesh. Agmas nefesh. And I'm kind of reverse engineering the pshat agmas nefesh. It's kind of like nituk, and it could also be called, says the Gemara Nadarim Daf Chaf Amud Aleph, It's also called Yira Shamayim. Mantia Yerosai al Pnechem, or it says by Har Sinai. The Lashon by Har Sinai is that they didn't want to see Hashem. And there the discussion is about the Yira. The Gemara says there that it means they were misbayish to stand in front of Hashem. This is a positive thing. Misbayish means, in other words, they not separated from Hashem, but they were misbayish in their averas, now to stand in front of Hashem. I copied down, I was looking for it, I remembered it inside, but I didn't have the sefer, it's already packed in my boxes, but I copied down the Rabbi Yerucham. This is something that always affected me, I want to read to you. He says, on this pasuk, I'll just read to you a little bit. Bavur tia yirosai al penechem, hadover ksas matmia, yine busha gam ki midahi, avalechzem ma midayin, oisa besamach liyira. The Gemara connects, Gemara Nadarim Daf Chav connects busha and yira. Do you hear the connection? You get the connection? Busha and yira. Said Hadavar, who says Rabbi Yerucham, the Mir Mashkiach, Yamnam yira ubusha achasein. Yira and busha altein zach. Ulachol eile higia amnam b'maimed Har Sinai. And we received this at Maimed Har Sinai. Seif Hadavar. This is what happened in the Har Sinai of Pascha Zu Amasam. By the way, eye-opening, because by Adam and Chava it says, V'lo yispaishashu. And that was the Zuma of the Nachash. Lo yispaishashu, they didn't have a busha to be arum any longer. They had it when they were born, but lo yispaishashu. So, when we went to Har Sinai, we had busha, Pascha Zu Amasam. That was the Zuma Sanachash, Pascha Zu Amasam. We got our busha back. Like the opposite of an azpanim. Right, but then there was two gedarim of lo yispaishashu. One lo yispaishashu. This is exactly what Yerucham is talking about. They were born like Mayesh Lit Bayesh, but then when they did a chet, Chazal say that there again they had no busha, right? So they had no busha from the chet. So we had busha at Har Sinai, Pascha Zumasam. Matzavei shel adam arishin koydem achet pasach lam shiva rikim ra b'chushu yechidi misham yatsu mevuyashim. Dafke b'matzav achi ram b'nisa k'shiral kol gedulasa yisbarach nisharu mevuyashim imatzavam hem mevuyashim imatzav gufam k'adayin nisharu mechubarim lay. It's just like the Maral. Misham yarshu abayshus, the Gemara says. Then they came to Har Sinai, nachla abusha la'ilam. But here's the thing, like the Yerucham explains, this is a bit of a tangent, but it's mamash pshat, that there's a big difference between a person who has busha within himself and a person who has busha for others. You see, we always talk about busha for others, like embarrassing. So here you have to be a real Baal Musar like Rabbi Yerucham to appreciate. If you have busha for other people, it's gaiva. If you have busha from yourself, it's anivus. If I'm just embarrassed of other people, so
if I expose myself to other people.
So if I'm embarrassed, you embarrass me in public. What does that mean? So it means that now people think less of me. They thought I was like this, or you get caught in an act of something or another. So that's embarrassing. You get caught in an act, all of a sudden it's in the paper. It's you get caught in the act. So that's embarrassing. But that embarrassment is not. That's embarrassment. That's not like a big mila. But busha, where a person himself feels, let's call one embarrassment, one shame. So the shame is one of the midos of Mesilas Yesharim. Busha is a good thing, but nevertheless, you're mevayish somebody barabim, or you're mevayish yourself barabim. That's coming from a different place. So right. So we're dealing with a very this busha, just in general, this feeling of the feeling of busha is a very unusual feeling. What is that? Like, what is it? Scientifically, what is it? Why do I blush? Malbin pnei chaver. I'm hoping you know the answer, because I don't. But that would.
I also heard it said that the difference between humility and humiliation is humility is where I live with the truth. Humiliation is where I'm caught by the truth.
Okay. Got to work on that.
In other words, if I'm aligned with the truth, that's called humility. I'm humiliated because I'm not living with the truth.
It's almost opposites, right?
Busha.
Yeah. So you see, embarrassed of other people is not a high madrega. It's good. I've read that human evolution takes place because of embarrassment. In other words, like one doesn't keep up with the social norms, so they walk around stealing everything. Or occurs like society is supposed to evolve into something good. And the way one of the tools of society and the tools of evolution, if you will, is just embarrassment. But that's not the madrega we're talking about. Embarrassed from Hashem is also not the madrega we're talking about. We're talking about something, and this is so important to be magdir this. Embarrassed from Hashem, I'm embarrassed from Hashem. That's not nachnish Gehenna. The Gehenna is that I'm embarrassed within myself. So let's say, as Yerucham puts it, a person walks outside a room, like Adam and Chava. You walk outside a room, so you're embarrassed. So you're embarrassed of other people. But a person who's like be'etzem, a dignified person, like he don't even want to catch himself arum, maybe. In other words, there's a dignity in all areas of tznius, like a sort of a busha-related thing, where it's not just about what other people are going to see. So it's a very deep idea. And go back to the Maharal for a second. I'm sorry if I'm confusing you, it's just because I myself am confused. But when you go back to the Maharal for a moment, so what the Maharal says, that what the busha does, the way that works, is it's menatek es ha'adam min ha'avera. It's not me, it's a menatek. What Gehenna does is it's menatek es ha'adam min ha'avera, separation of man and his actions. As opposed to, says the Maharal, oz panim, if a person is an oz panim, like Gehenna, you got to go to Gehenna. Why? Because you have not yet detached yourself from your avera. So if you want to save yourself a trip, so what it means is that to feel that what we're really looking for, the end goal here, is that one must be detached from the averas they did. And haspanim is involved in cognitive dissonance, where you're rationalizing it all the time and you're making it okay, and you've created a whole shita about my chesaron, and it means you're attached to it, and you're doing all kinds of psychological games to attach to a certain lifestyle or certain avera. Whereas the madrega of busha, which Chazal spoke about, is a madrega of, okay, people make mistakes, people do things, people, not everything we do is perfect. This is what life is all about. But I don't have to be an azpanim and just make that my life. That's the and that's called. So we have a couple of shemos nirdashim. You have agmas nefesh, busha, charata. Those are all synonyms.
Yeah, so it's something like this effect from the avera. So that's good. The avera is still there.
Yeah. So I get to the rest of tshuva. In other words, it's just a step of tshuva, which is charata. There's also vidui. Yeah. Also, there could be like a cleansing from Shemayim that has to come for the Aver, which is Yisurim. There's a different. What? What's nefesh? Psychological. Nefesh means your psychology, right? Not neshama. I saw. I couldn't retrace it, but Chazal say, maybe in Rav Hirsch, Chazal say that when the brothers came to Yosef, he said, Ani Yosef. So Rashi brings Chazal, famous Chazal, Ani Yosef, Oid Avichai. So Chazal say, Oy lo isa busha, Oy lo isa chalama. Klima, two different gears. I pointed out last week that like the way that's normally learned is that like we found in the Chumash a place of being embarrassed, and now we say, well, that felt bad. Imagine how it's going to feel in Shemayim. But if the correct way, I believe, the correct way to learn that passage is not that there's no Kal v'chomers here. The correct way to learn that passage is that the Ache Yosef, give me your all on this for a second. The brothers of Yosef got so involved in torturing their brother day by day, and making fun of him and bullying him, and all the things that the Torah says. Ad kedei trying to kill him, selling him away. Like they were tzaddikim, presumably. So how did that happen? And the answer is that they got so involved. You can get so involved in something that all of a sudden, like your avera of like ritzicha becomes a mitzvah somehow. Like this is what we're doing. We say this b'yameinu every day. Like something which is like eina seichel, eina seichel toifes is like all mitzvah. So you got to be careful with this. So you got to be careful to constantly rethink. Is does this make any sense? What I'm believing over here? Just one second, please. So the shot over here is that the brothers of Yosef got so involved in their project of trying to abuse Yosef that they didn't even realize what they were doing until Yosef is the Melech Mitzrayim, and he says, Ani Yosef, and woke up. And it wasn't just like, oh, let's make a Kal v'chomer to what it's going to be like to stand before the Kisei HaKavod. That in itself was a busha, and it was menatek them from the chet that they did. And that was the process of what went on, that very, very deep and holy process that went on in that meeting between Yosef and his brothers was, we'll work together, I'll forgive you, that's all fine. But there needs to be a nituk. I mean, you guys, you tried to kill me. There was a greatness on Yosef's part, a greatness on the Shvatim part. Like it was a greatness on everybody's part, but there was a nituk from Aver. So I saw. Here's what I think I'm quoting Rav Hirsch. I think that oiloi sa busha, oiloi sa chlima. What's the difference between busha and chlima? Come on, you guys went to Opan. What's the difference between busha and chlima? Woe to that busha, woe to that kalima.
Maybe bosh.
Kalem, it says in Chumash, right?
Maybe bosh is like a lotional pause.
Yisposhesh Moshe. Yeah, but you're answering a kasha with another kasha. Like why?
And klima is like complete.
Like kala, klila. Adoni Moshe Klayim. So I think it is said, that's probably true, but let's take it a step earlier. I think it said that busha is a feeling you have onto yourself, and klima is embarrassment from others. So like it's like, wow, this hurts. Wow, this is embarrassing. Two things going on at the same time, and this itself was machaper. This itself was the charata. It brought the Ani Yosef. Those two words brought a charata to the brothers of Yosef. That this was all wrong. And they never revisited that behavior. I mean, we do, I think, but in the story, they never revisited the behavior. They came clean of it. So it was a nituk It's. Are you with me on this? In other words, there's a difference between stopping to do an avera or being embarrassed from doing an avera to separating oneself from the avera. I just have no kesher to it at all. And I think we've all accomplished this on some averas and other averas. Most even Balei Tshuva don't wake up in the morning and wow, I really want to have a cheeseburger. It's not like it's no longer the. But there's other things. This is okay. It's the path of life. It's the derech of all of life. And by the way, it's not necessarily averes teriyag mitzvahs. We're talking about things like kas or achzarius or those kind of midos. It's very difficult for people to change. But that's what the tshuva process is, to detach ourselves from those kind of midos, which were, and it's possible to do. How's it possible to do? Because you have siyata d'shmaya. Otherwise, it wouldn't be possible to do. The philosophers say people don't change. This is who I am. It's my DNA. But you can change it because it's siyata d'shmaya. I just want to read this one more because I started reading it in. Habusha sha'anachnu mergolim ba, the busha that we're used to talking about. He ain't a klal amida kedusha. That has nothing to do with kedusha. Shenachalnu b'Har Sinai, that we received from Har Sinai. Busha is a gift at Har Sinai. Anachnu mispaishim b'shul azulas. When we say, "Oh, I'm embarrassed," that's in front of somebody else. Busha zu eina klal me'akaras goydol chulshaseinu v'sichleseinu. Busha zu im tachlis hagaiva. So, I would be very mispayish if I would be standing in front of a Yerucham at any time because it was so piercing, it wasn't just like Musar, it was piercing with, what are you feeling right now? And it's a tough one. But I believe that's what Reb Tzadok is calling, not just the similar to Gehenna, but that is Gehenna. Yeah, what do you want to say, Abraham?
Of course, he says that his father would give him this one. He's like, I say in Yiddish, it's not shy for me. Like, if they did something wrong, so it's just like you're above that. So we have the same idea, like.
Lo matim.
And that's a level of bush. Like, why don't I stick that level?
Yeah, but that's that's an outcome. I'm past that.
He's probably giving a keynote that you should feel it on yourself.
So here's an interesting thing that just occurred to me, that just like Baal Tshuva, I think this is so telling that a Baal Tshuva should not be talking about his previous averes. There's exceptions to the rule. You're giving somebody chizuk. I went through it. You can go through it. Okay, but there's got to be a nituk. Same thing. The Rambam says a paragraph later that it's usher mishum le'saino, but it's logically usher to tell about Shiva. I remember you when you used to when you used to do this aver, that aver. It's terrible. Why? Why is it so terrible? Because this musar, that's not me. It's somebody else, and it's just first of all, it's just like a horrible thing to do. But I know that, like, I'm not judging anybody, but I know that a lot of people that went through the Holocaust and the war, it was very difficult for them to deal with Balei Tshuva. I was here in the early 40s, they were being tortured. And here in the 60s, all of a sudden everybody was becoming Balei Tshuva, and I had a hard, and it was like a lot of, Eichmer Tzadik, and they would, they just didn't, I don't know. But anyways, we don't have to be that way. Like, the idea is to not only to fargin, but to recognize that if a person goes through a significant change, so leave them alone. No, you don't keep on mentioning, not in mitos and not in our relationships and not in when it comes to Yiddishkeit, not when it comes to Averes. You don't keep mentioning chatoim rishonim asher asinu, unless we're still doing them. Let's go further. The busha, but I just spent a long time defining that busha. Amr b'seif parakama de brachas hamisbayish ba. If you're misbayish, this type of busha that we're talking about, like a Rabbi Yerucham's busha, meichlan lai, you get forgiven for the aver that you have. Ki kfar saval oynash gehenim. You had it. You got it already. That's what the busha is at. Does anybody think, you don't have to answer this question, but anybody feel this busha? I don't know, aver? It's a tough one. Yeah? Like what like just tell me about it. In other words, like disappointed in how did I do such a thing?
Yeah.
So good for you. So even if you're like on a desert island and nobody's going to see it, nobody's like what happened to me? Like what happened? How could I do such a thing?
The problem is, like I said before, I think maybe Shem, I don't know, that it could be that even if it's a very high madriga, if a person knew that there's something on the table and no one would ever know that I stole it.
Rabbi Yaacov.
Even right, I think it was Rabbi himself said that. Who says that I would withstand that concern? So you see that it is probably others that you're.
That's why Busha is Yira. That's why Busha is Yira Shemayim, right?
He himself is saying that that's a low level to be afraid of others.
No, if it's.
Within oneself.
I think the lesson's the opposite. What he said was, let me repeat, what Rabbi Yerucham said, this I heard from Rav Scheinberg, who was in his Chabura, Rabbi Yerucham's Chabura in Meir, that he said that if Rabbi Yerucham posed this question, that if there is a $100 bill on the table, and there's no chance in the world that anybody would see that like Shmaya Galia. Nobody's ever going to know that I stole that $100 if I put it in my pocket. Just know, it'd be, pre-cameras, be like it's never going to know, would you take the $100 or would you not to take the $100?
Maybe you're saying from won't even realize that he lost that $100.
Okay. Even that. So, like Etzem, because it says, Sigzol, would you not take the $100? So of course, we all say, of course, we wouldn't take the $100, but Rabbi Yerucham said, I think I would definitely take it. That's what he said about himself. And he says, on the altar of Navardik, or altar Slabotka, he says he has a suffix. That's what he said. So it's a tough call. I don't mind tough calls because that's like, you're not supposed to do that like today. These are goals to get to where a person could have such integrity that even Benila Benatzmi, I'm so far from that chet. He says here something which is a little bit further. Misha Zoche, I found this troubling. Misha Zoche, if you are a spiritually privileged person, Mina Shamayim Maskirin loy b'chol eis avera she'aser mismarmer aleihem. Oh my gosh. Ad shesoivel shir gehenim hamagia loy al zeh b'olam hazeh. Like if you find something, I'm just saying what he says. If you find something keeps on coming up, a certain Yetzer Hara, let's say, or a certain keeps on coming up on your life, that means you're not past it. So Minas Shomayim, it keeps on. It keeps on coming up. I'm still resisting, even if you're not doing the Aver. But it means that you have not made a nituk at all from that, a complete nituk from that Aver. So, we always look at it, I always look at it the other way, that Tzadok has a lot of nisyonos and Misha Gadol Mechaver, Yitzrei Gadol, things like that. But what he's saying is that there are certain things like Kishani Latzmi, let's say, I don't wake up with the taiva to kill anybody. Used to. I never woke. But it's not, and I'm a nutak from that for whatever reason. I think most Averas, but everybody has their Aver. Maybe it has to do with kas or patience or Aver b'fayil, or they really just enjoy basar b'chalav or something like that. So whatever it may be, if the issue keeps coming up in my life, that's min hashamayim to signal me to continue your process of nituk. It's a chesed.
Opportunity each time to attack it.
Yeah, to be menatek, different order. Yeah.
Back to Rabbi Yaacov, you said there's two, the higher madrega than being mevayesh, for Hashem, if you mevayish within yourself.
Yes.
How do you explain that?
Because Bivayish V'nei Hashem doesn't make me into a new person. Bivayish Mifnei Atzmai, just like in other words, I'm so religious or so spiritual that I feel like I'm Lifnei Hashem Yafeh. But it's not like I'm a different person. They say one of the Balei Musar said, I'm not such a big bucky in Musar, by the way, but they say one of the big Balei Musar said that like the Avera has to be such to you that even if there wasn't a Hashem, I wouldn't do that Avera. Like in other words, the neshama comes into the goof, and you've got the goof so where it's supposed to be that I have no kesher to that. The goof is just here to be mashamish my neshama. And as I keep saying, we're not a goof with a neshama, we're a neshama with a goof. So it's just not me, like unless there's all these tangents. So the reminder is a chesed that tzaddikim have to tell you a little more nituk, a little more gehenim. V'zeu ha'piroin min ha'averos shenifroin min ha'tzaddikim ba'olam hazeh. This is what tzaddikim go through in this world. And this is a very important distinction we keep making, because if we're talking about onshim, punishment, that's not what we're talking about here. In other words, the chiddush on my list of chiddush is that Gehenna is not an onesh. It's a process. Gehenna, whatever it is a process of being menatek me from the chet that I did. That's what it means. However that happens, I don't know what it is.
I don't know the definition of onesh. And onesh is really, my kid does something wrong, I give him a slap. So I'm trying to disconnect him from it. I don't want my kid to stick his finger in the... So,
I imagine onesh encompasses many words.
Person from what he did.
Maybe that's one of the benefits of an onesh, but usually an onesh is you had a no, now you're gonna suffer. Right. Like if somebody punishes their kid, so I guess on the one hand you're disconnecting them. I tell you just like just a personal thing. Don't think less of me. But yesterday I was in Ramla at a printer. So I always tell this printer, that you right here where you are, I don't know if you ever go there, but on the corner of, you go to the left is, you go to the right it's Lud, and you go to the left it's Ram, right? So it's called Ramla Lud. So I always tell them that this must be like your printing shop, which is a schleppy warehouse place. This must be like one of the most valuable real estate pieces in the world because of the neighbors that you have. Because right across the street is the like the biggest prison. So yeah, the president of Israel was in that prison. All kinds of very high class people in that prison. So I said, like, you're the same neighborhood. It's like being in Caesarea or something. Like it's a very chashuv neighborhood. Okay, so that's my joke. But when I was driving by yesterday, that was yesterday afternoon, and I'm looking at this prison, it always gives me a cause for pause. Just looking at this prison, all you see is a building. There's big walls around it. You don't see like people walking around, prisoners walking around, just a building, and I don't think like it's a prison with terrorists and stuff. It's more like white collar, crimes and things like that. And I look at it yesterday and I'm thinking, so like is there really a point in this idea of taking somebody? Like, what does this accomplish exactly? Like taking, not against it, but what does it exactly accomplish to take somebody and put them in? I said to somebody a couple of days ago around here in Ramat Bet Shemesh, I said, how do you speak French so well? So he said, because I was in French jail for 4 years. Oh, okay. So, yes. Sorry, I don't want to interfere. Okay, it's good. Picked up the language, nice. I hate to think of what level language he speaks, but I'm looking at this thing and I'm saying, is this, I'm just saying this, is this an onesh? Is this a rehabilitation center? A place of tshuva? is it a place of, what is it a place, what is this? Like, what is it? So, well, I'm saying if somebody's dangerous, terrorists, of course you do something with them, either kill them or lock them up.
You want to separate them out from society.
To separate them from society, and therefore what?
I don't know, but for us
You like it?
For us it's okay. For them it's
Oh, that's another possibility.
Society's inability.
The what?
Society's inability to really do it.
Huh? Lock them in a room. I'm not against it. I'm not a criminologist or something. I'm not against it. I'm only saying, like, I wonder if people are still thinking about, like, what are we accomplishing here? Like, well, we know what hurts and hurt somebody's family and busha, and now there are some positive things to it. But I'm just saying, what's the program? I don't know what the program is. I mean, the Torah doesn't talk so much about jail, does it? Except once. Makoshe Shetzim went to jail for a day, so we killed him. Like there's cases where you don't deserve to live. I'm just like, what is this kafakela? I don't know what the. They don't get better. I don't know. No, I'm just saying a lot of people don't get better because it's like this with tshuva also. Like I noticed that it's a bit of a tangent, but I think it's the right thing. That a lot of people would say that like marry the wrong person and get divorced. So they end up marrying another wrong person just like that because nothing changed. People tend to repeat the same thing over and over again because nothing changed. Like, why would you get a different result? Person. So like the jail mitzad atzmai is not the thing. So maybe it's embarrassing from others or I don't know. But what we're talking about, Gehenna, that's the point, is a makom of or to go to Gehenna for this, just the charata that you have for an avera has to be such a nituk, seems to me, which it's like the charata part of tshuva is such a nituk that it feels like Yisur Gehenna. Is that too heavy? I just because Yisur Gehenna is not all that bad. All it means is forget about the fires and the devils and all that. Get that out of your mind. It's all Christian stuff. What it means is that it's a place of charata. It's like it's a place of remorse, and not remorse from people because no people in them. They're not remorse from even Hashem, but remorse from myself, and that's the nituk, and that's the charata that we have. When we go into tshuva.
Remorse for myself, you different types of for the Avera. So I yell at somebody or I yell at a kid, and then a few hours later I feel very bad about it. It doesn't really feel bad about the Avera. I feel bad like inside, whatever. It's like how do we?
Or the ramifications of what you did.
Nothing happens wrong. I feel bad that he yelled. So how do we say that?
That's good.
Or not, like that's sort of like.
I don't know how we say, but that's a good. That seems to me to be a good like.
It's not the Avera. It's not because of the Avera. It's the bad what he did, not because of the Avera. Not because he yelled.
You think like, sometimes these people like with the collectors of tzedakah. Okay, b'simcha, here's a shekel, b'simcha, a shekel, b'simcha, a third shekel, a fourth shekel, 10, 15, 20, and you want to daven, so it comes out the 13th guy who's not yet hit his 18th birthday, you scream at him. Get a job, like gosh, like you're a young guy. What do you do? Whatever our, like who would do such a thing and not feel awful afterwards? Like, is this what we're supposed to be? Is that the, or is it just getting on our nerves? So I'm just saying that feeling of awful, like what happened to me, what overcame me, why do I act like that? That's all. I don't know. It's a little bit shemaimi, but it's a big madrega. Madrega, but it's not busha from others. That's the gaiva.
It's not specifically a Avera. It's part of what I did. I didn't do a Avera. I just thought why I acted that way. That's doesn't be a Avera. Nothing to do with Avera. Just the inner feeling this is wrong. It doesn't have to shock the Avera or not. I'm saying
like what?
Like yelling at somebody. It could be that.
That's an Avera. It's an Avera.
No, you yell at the kid running across the street. So I did afterwards. So I was right through yelling at him.
You do?
But I feel bad about it. So I mean that. It wasn't a barrier, but there's a.
I don't know. I'm more black and white than that. I think if I'm working with Kas or I'm working with, with L'Shem Shemayim. I'm sorry we didn't get all the way through, but you started this, talking about onshim is the same, it's not the same. It's different set of rules for onshim. Such an interesting, and I mentioned this last week, so Chaye, Banay, and Mazoyne, those are the three essentials of life. Chaye, Banay, or is my life, the extension of my life, and the ability to maintain my life, right? Chaye, my health, let's say, my parnasa, and my children. It's like life. So okay, it's not working out well for me, let's say. My kids are giving me trouble. I can't make parnasa, and I'm unhealthy. So I'm missing in Chaye Banay Umazoyne Chas v'Shalom. So Chaye Banay Umazoyne says the Gemara, astoundingly, Loi b'schus Italia milsela b'mazla. That's just a mazel zach. It's not schus. Schus means schus and aver. It's just a mazel thing. What does it mean? It's just a mazel thing. What do you mean? What? So Reb Tzadok teaches mazel in a few places. He says that it doesn't mean mazel like astrological mazolis, the formation of the stars. That is mazel, ein mazel Yisrael. That we can climb above the stars. That's part of the bria. Hashem made shemesh v'yarech v'kechavim loisos. That's if you know how to do that, cool. Like you're an astrologer. That's what he's talking about over here. Here, mazel Talia Milsa means your spiritual DNA, the neshama that you were given. Zeal comes from was like Zola. It comes down into your goof with a certain mazel, and you see some people that are really not so smart making a lot of money and having a lot of nachas and children, and people that are like kilo educators or geniuses and they can't get it together. Like, so what's going on in the mazel? Now, how do you deal with your mazel? You could change that also, but that's a whole different subject than what we're talking about here. It's not an onesh, like you can't look at a tzaddik or any of these cases, or a person who's unhealthy and is a tzaddik, and say, well, you're a tzaddik, why are you unhealthy? Like, why? You can't do that because that's a mazel. That meaning mazel, meaning it comes from a whole different place in Shemayim. It's a whole different system, whole different marechet than the marechet. And onshim, says Reb Tzadok, are also in a different marechet than the marechet of Gehenna. Gehenna is not to get mixed up. There's an onesh, there's mazel, and then there's Gehenna. So Gehenna is one specific thing. Humanizing Gehenna here. Gehenna is one specific thing. It's the makam of charata. That's what it is. The makam of charata. Zeh shamar David HaMelech. I have another 5 minutes. Zeh shamar David HaMelech. Olav Hashem gam ki elech begeitz hamavis lo yira ra. Famous pasuk. Gam ki elech begeitz hamavis lo yira ra. Vadai. Like even the Goyim like this pasuk, right? Yea, that I walk through the valley of death, I fear no evil, for thou art with me. Everybody likes this, but Reb Tzadok explains it. Gam ki elech begeitz hamavis, David HaMelech said, lo yira ra. Where was David thinking about walking in the gates hamavis? What's gates hamavis? That's Gehenna. Where was David HaMelech walking in Gehenna? So, Vadai lechashiv, says Reb Tzadok, certainly David HaMelech didn't think, Shehiyah begehenim, la'asid lavai, Mashabru, Karil nafshilcha, lechasid ani. David HaMelech considered himself a chassid, and he was a chassid. David HaMelech Yisrael, Chai v'kayim. Did he ever do anything wrong? Yes, but okay. Either a different type of madreg of avera, or he did tshuva, however you want to understand it. But he was a tzaddik. David HaMelech was a tzaddik. Old David HaMelech was a tzaddik, and bravely told his own story. And Tanakh tells the story, but that's okay. He was a tzaddik. So what's he talking? Gam ki elech begeitz hamavis. What gates hamavis? Is it the valley of the shadow of death? He called himself a chassid. I'll cope on him, or even more so. Certainly, he wouldn't be poseach pela sudden. Now, this is, again, a new meaning to me. Another one of the chidushim here is that we often use this term, al tiftach pelason. But what does it mean? It means the son is in charge. He's the Sar Hamamunah on Gehenna. So don't get involved. Al tiftach pelason. Don't dare the son. Don't. So why would he even talk? And why would his lips even come out with gates al maves? That's a pischein pelason. Why do that? The answer is, the answer is that the Gehenna that he was talking about, the Gehenna that he's talking about was ba'olam hazeh, kishahayah, and this is true about David HaMelech, shayah ba'atzvus u'mayra shchayra al chata'av. Now the Gemara says, Kol ha'omer sheDavid HaMelech chata'ein elatayah. So what do you say about that, Chaim?
Talking about that circumstance, he says he didn't do it ever.
That's why
Other Avers.
He also, one person before, that he felt that something wrong. Maybe he did something wrong, but he felt busha when he felt this wrong. Even it wasn't wrong. I would say by yelling at somebody, yelling at a kid, that even though I was right, I felt bad and started yelling at the kid. That's what.
Maybe that's your best same one. You can't master about Shiur. There's some kid, that's my average.
Good.
What he did was what he did. It wasn't
So you're walking around saying, call somebody else.
Me saying about him, that's my problem. What he did is more to come about what he did, not that's my problem. It means I'm not saying you don't David.
I got it.
It's pretty good. He doesn't shot.
Gilitzianer Pshat.
It's nice. It's not.
Lamatim. That's what Yaakov said. Lamatim lecha. Yeah. Where the Welt says, like, he did tshuva for the Kol HaOmer. He did something which was like spasnish to do. I remember it was a Slobavitcher Rebbe's yard site. Yeah? It's at the same printer I went to yesterday, all Lubavitchers. I have about 35 employees, all Lubavitchers. Why did I go to the printer? Because they're half-staffed, and I couldn't get a delivery, so I went to the printer. And they're half-staffed because half of them went to New York for the Rebbe's yard site. So I said to the guy who owns the place, so I said, so why didn't you go? So he said, because he didn't die. Yard site is what yard site. What does yard site have to do with it? So the whole company there is divided into two: those that hold to the yard site, and those that don't hold to the yard site. I'm not saying, but what?
That's why they go to New York on the yard site. They don't want to be with the other guys on the yard site
who don't hold it to yard site.
Yeah.
It was a yard site. Okay, I learned something new. But when I was a little child, 12, 13 years old, so I saw the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and I saw him many times, but I remember when I saw him. So I said to my Lubavitcher tour guide, if you will, I said to him, "Does he?" It was like otherworldly, right? So I said, "Does he do any averos?" David HaMelech do any averos? So he said to me, everybody does averas, but not the same kind that you and I do. MS, it would be hard to believe that when nobody's looking, he's grabbing something with a triangle K. Something like that. It's a different, it's in a different bechina. No, but there's a different bechina of avera, and each one of them, this is what he's saying about David HaMelech, that for the madrega that he was in and the avera that he did, he had atzvus umar shchayra. What's the difference, just while we're here, between atzvus and mar shchayra? Every word, this is there. What's atzvus, what's mar shchayra?
Atzvus is up here, mar shchayra is down here.
Something like that, yeah. So mar shchayra means chemical. chemical. It's a chemical change that comes about from stress and from a physical reaction.
Black bile.
It's a bile that comes out of the liver area there, and it causes one to be sad. It's actually official. Atzvus means I'm just melancholy. So there's two different things. In halacha, you find this all over. There's atzvus, and then there's marashchar, two different things. Maybe one can lead to the other, but it's, you would think, this is not true what I'm saying, but like for instance, one will respond to medication, one won't. But that's not true. But I'm just saying, like, that's like a difference. One is like physical, biological, it's become, and one is psychological. So David HaMelech had atzvus and marashchar. Both words are used about the very difficult and dark period that David HaMelech went through. And that period he called, which maybe many people go through, in that period of life that he went through, on this he said, Gam ki elech begeit salmavis. That he called that gate salmavis. And Reb Tzadok is medayik so deeply that he didn't just say, even when I went through hell, this is what I went through. No. He meant begeit salmavis. He meant I went through the busha and the chalima and the kind of busha that we're talking about. Like I went through Rabbi Yerucham's busha on the things that I did, even though it wasn't even really an aver, but however you want to understand it, didn't pass for me to be able to do it, lamatim. And I went through that, and that dark period of time he called gate salmavis. What does it mean, lo yirara? What does that mean? Gam ki elach begeit salmaves lo yirara ki ato imadi. What does it mean? It means that when one goes through, with this I will end, when one goes through a very dark, depressed period of time, which agav can be a very spiritual time in a certain way. You don't want to go there. It's not, most of us when we feel this, you don't see a therapist, but like I feel guilt, I feel shame, maybe on a certain madrega, like David HaMelech, this was his Gehenna. This is where he had his charata. But nevertheless, here's like the chop here. Nevertheless, when you're going through that, good or bad, or however you want to say it, you lose the Shechina. You lose the Shechina. Because the Shechina can't be shari on a person unless they're besimcha. You have to be besimcha. So David HaMelech said a statement like this. Let's say this, like when we daven. You were still with me. Nothing terrible happened. Why? Because you were imadi. So imadi or Tzadok defines as you were kenegdi. You were no longer in me because of that, but you were still around in my life. So here, what he was saying is that the chiddush of the pasuk of God, what was he trying to say? What was he teaching us? Gam ki elech begeit salmaves. This happens, but don't think that the Shechina is mistalek, and therefore I am completely void of any kind of godliness. No, atayimadi, you just moved from the ani to the ata. And then he spoke about shiftecha, bang, mishantecha. Like a stick has two purposes. One of them, you can hit somebody with a stick. The other one is something to lean on. Same stick, right? The staff. Shiftecha or mishantecha. Hema yanachamuni. It's a combination of chesed and din. Shiftecha or mishantecha is a combination of chesed and din. But hema yanachamuni. That's why I stick with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I'll tell you something just of ours. Like a lot of people, like if you hear, if we go to a siyum on the seven on Shulchan Aruch, on Mishnah Berurah, let's say, so people like to point out that the first Ramah says Shivisi Hashem Lenegdi Samid, and the last Ramah in our Chaim is Toiv Leiv Mishta Tamid. It's talking about Hilchos Purim. So it's good to be drunk and be besimcha. So a lot of the people that are Messiahs, so they say Makasher, the beginning to the end and all that. So you have the first and the end, but it's actually very, very deep when you think about it. Shivisi Hashem lenegdi tamid. In other words, this is actually a low madrega. You're a beginner in Orach Chaim. Shivisi Hashem, I'm envisioning Hashem Lenegdi, but it's in front of me like this. Lenegdi summit. But at the end of the Shulchan Aruch, you go through the whole thing. You're Shomer Shabbos and you're Shomer everything. And Hilchos Purim is at the end. So you become Besimcha, not like David HaMelech went through the school. You're Besimcha. So this Rama says that now the Shekhinah has moved from Shivisi Hashem Lenegdi summit to within me. Like I am, and you see somebody who's, you don't need alcohol to do this, but you see somebody who's like exuding happiness. And there's just like an aura on them and on their face, and they walk into a room, and the room lights up. This is not just a gift of charisma; it's ruchnius, and the ruchnius is that I went from Shivis Hashem Lenegdi Summit, from Hashem being out there. You didn't leave me, I didn't leave you, but I got all the way to the point of simcha, where tov leiv. It's like mamash in my heart. And I'm always b'simcha. That means that I'm roi for nevuah. I'm roi for Ashras HaShechina. This is the simcha that we have when we have the Beis HaMikdash, because you have Ashras HaShechina.